Hello and welcome to another episode of Giant Mess, a sloppy sports and entertainment talk show about the New York Giants, the New York Mets, movies, comedy, TV, and a whole lot more. It's hosted by a giant mess. That's me, the Real Cinch Neal Lynch. I am a plump and furry Irish-Italian-American who graduated from a Catholic high school but isn't Catholic, and a college known for producing doctors and lacrosse players, and then became neither. Instead, I'm a blogger, vlogger, podcaster, writer, editor, video optimizer, content strategist, and failed stand-up comedian. I have a voicemail, a hotline, if you will. You can leave a voicemail on that hotline at 862-BIT-1986. That's 862-BIT-1986. I've got a blog. I've got a website. It's neallynch.com. You probably misspelled it, so I'll spell it for you. NEALLYNCH.com. You can check me out on Facebook.com/giantmess. Real Cinch on Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. On this episode of Giant Mess, we're going to keep it to the Mets and Giants. So I can already feel a lot of people just tuning out and clicking away. That's cool. We'll catch you on the flip. We'll catch you next time, where I talk more movies and TV. This one's Mets and Giants. The Mets are up for sale again. J-Lo and A-Rod back in the mix, as is Steve Cohen, the billionaire, playboy philanthropist genius. And they're going to get it at a discount because the Wilpons are hurting. The more games that are canceled or postponed due to coronavirus, and the bigger hit to the wallet the Wilpons take. And we already know they're strapped because they're very hesitant to pay big for the big players. We'll also talk about what would have happened to the Mets in 2000 if they actually got Ken Griffey Jr. Did you get a little tingly when I said that? Did you get a little blood rush to certain parts of your body downstairs? Because it did for me. And then we'll finish up with the Giants, a comprehensive breakdown of all 10 of the Giants draft picks in the 2020 NFL draft. First, let's just dive into it. Let's talk about life. I've actually gained weight since I started using Peloton. I don't know how that happened. Like 5 pounds. I weighed myself at the end of a Sunday night. Pro tip, don't ever do that. I was almost 240 pounds. I don't know how that's possible. I'm hovering around 235 normally. At one point, I was almost 230, and that was like a win for me. You know, you got to celebrate the wins, no matter how big or small. But since doing Peloton, I think I've gained weight, and I can just hear my father. If he were alive and I told him that I gained weight using Peloton, he would say, well, you know, muscle weighs more than fat. Thanks, Dad. Not the point. So yeah, that's no bueno. I mean, it doesn't help that we've turned to drinking every night. I mean, that's just a thing now. If you're watching the video of this, on YouTube, which is normally where I post this stuff, I'm trying to post it to Facebook, IG, wherever, but it's, hey, there's only 24 hours in a day, people. So yeah, I've turned to drinking almost every night, which that's just the thing. And like diets, whatnot, have gone out the window. You know, since my wife announced that we're going on a health kick in April, we're now almost done with April. And it seems like all we're eating is bread and potatoes. It's like we're an Irish prisoner, just like bread and potatoes. That's all we got. And that's all I've been eating. Chips, pretzels, snacks, just carbing up. I mean, my wife's Peloton name is Cass Loves Carbs. And, it's something I would have liked to have known before I married her, because I don't know. It's a big deal breaker for me. I don't respond well to carbs. Carbs and me just don't jive. My body does not have the chemical makeup, the genetic makeup to deal with carbs. I can barely lose weight just doing like keto. Something off inside of my shell, my skin shell. And we've turned to, because I think my wife is prone to cabin fever. Me, not so much. But we've turned to board games on the weekends. So like last weekend, my sister-in-law Cassie's sister came over and we played board games. This weekend, her best friend, her maid of honor, came over, played some board games. And board games have taught me one thing. I am a fucking dumbass. I am stupid with a capital S, a capital T, 2 capital O's, a P, an I, and a D. Stupid. I just cannot believe that I actually got a 1300 on my SATs, humble brag. And then I got into Johns Hopkins University, which not an Ivy League, it's a fake Ivy. And I got to say, if you're going to start a college or university, pretend like it's an Ivy. Say it's basically an Ivy, even though it isn't. Because then you get people going there thinking, it's like basically an Ivy. And you're paying just as much to go there as you would an Ivy League university, but it's not. And people know that. But that's how they get you. And I think if I were to start a college or university, make it private and pretend like it's Ivy League, and then hover in that top 20 range. So you're not top 10, but you're like top 20, and you can justify just destroying people's lives, destroying their bank accounts and having them in debt for the rest of their lives. I can't imagine what it must be like for college students right now. It's like, we had a babysitter from down the street. I think I mentioned this in a previous episode, who's in high school and is coming and would try to watch the baby. And that didn't fly with Brielle, my daughter. Did not fly. Did not compute for her. She was not about to have that. But this high school, I think she's a junior. I was talking about what school is like, and she's like, it's actually tougher now because it's like they give us way more work than we usually had if we were in school. And if you like miss a lesson or something like that, like you are counted absent for the day or something, and you just don't graduate. So I can't imagine being a high school kid or a college kid and just having your graduation taken from you. Like proms. Are proms going to happen? Probably not. We're going to have a virtual prom on Zoom. That sucks. My prom. I mean, should we even talk? It's not even May yet, but it's Sunday night, by the way. It's 10:35, so I'm running on fumes. I got the big D, as my mom and dad used to call it. My dad would get the big D, the big depression Sunday nights, because it's like, got to go back to my shit job that I hate. It's not a shit job. Just stressful. And it's like when you're in weekend mode and all you want to do is eat and drink and sleep, and then you got to think about actually using your brain. It hurts. It hurts on many levels. Let's get that. It's Sunday scaries is what they call it these days. But the big D is what they called it prior to the internet, probably. But board games have reminded me that I'm stupid. I do not pick up. And that's why I laughed on the intro when I said I'm a content strategist, because I'm not a strategist. My strategies suck. I'm a bad strategist. My strategies are weird. People don't get them. They're clear up here in my head, not clear when I say them out loud in words. And yeah, I mean, I had Cassie and Lindsay and Cassie and Heather just like laughing at me and my strategies because I didn't get it. They all got it way before I got it and picked up on anything. You know, Clue is a game of logic and deduction. I thought, I should be able to crush this game. This is like my forte. This is all those tests I take online, personality quizzes and tests about what are your strengths, what are your best, strongest traits, what do you excel at, and it's like, you're a logician. Not a magician, a logician. Like logic is your forte. And boy, I don't know. They are off because I they looked at me like, and I began to question myself. And I'm off the Lexapro, by the way. Ran out of the Lexapro because my insurance says that I have to get it from CVS and not Walgreens, and Walgreens is where I go. And then the doctor's and then they were saying you can't get a prescription of 30 pills. You got to get 90 pills. We won't cover if it's 30 pills. And I'm like, oh my God, we're really tightening the belt everywhere, huh? So yeah, down in the dumps for sure, because I'm off the Lexapro. I don't know if there's Lexapro withdrawal, but I have it if it does exist. And, you start to make, and, this is the other part of it. So I'm definitely dumb. Monopoly, I just decided that I was going to, the first 2 streets or blocks, as they call it, Monopoly, I didn't learn that you don't buy anything on those 2 blocks. Save your money. Invest in the 3rd and 4th block. The 4th block is where it's at. That's where you rake in the cash. Not me. Everyone's passing on the first 2 blocks, and I'm like, ha, you guys are suckers. And then I'm buying up all this cheap fucking land where I get like $5 rent. I'm like a slumlord in Monopoly. And of course I went bankrupt first, very fast, very quickly. So yeah, I'm dumb, and I'm not good with money, and fat, and not funny. We had a Slack challenge at work. The culture crew put together a Slack challenge, and if none of those words make sense in your brain, it's totally fine. Slack is an instant messaging service that we use, and the culture crew is like a little group of people that try to make people not hate their lives, basically, at work. Their job is to keep you interacting and social and positive and happy, and so that work doesn't consume your soul as it has mine. Because I am completely burnt out yet again. I was burnt out at the end of January when I had help. Now I don't have help, and now I'm losing help. And now it's just, I'm surprised my entire body is covered in silver hair. Just a silverback gorilla, an elder silverback gorilla at this point. So I'm sure the stress doesn't help in terms of trying to lose weight. No matter how many friggin' stupid climb rides I do in Peloton. Anyway. So yeah, Monopoly, stupid strategy. Yahtzee, didn't know how to add, which is a basic skill as a human that you would need. Sorry, I think I'm all right at sorry. I majored in apology in college, so that joke sucks and no one likes it. I get it. But anyway, the Slack challenge, they did like baby pics. Show us your baby pics, blah, blah, blah. This last one was a high school yearbook. Show us a picture or 2 from your high school yearbook. And so I showed a picture of me. They have the superlative section, best looking, most athletic, blah, blah, all that bullshit. And I got class clown with a woman who is very funny. And I realized, like, at the time I thought it was like I was proud of it and it was an honor. I was like, yeah, fuck yeah, class clown. I'm the funniest person in the school, in my class. Not Ed. Nah. Class clown doesn't mean you're funny. In fact, I've listened to, and I've said this before, like, Conan O'Brien said that if you were a class clown, you're an asshole. And it's like, yep, I believe it 1,000% now. And it set me on the wrong path, because you get class clown and you think, oh, I'm funny. People are going to like me because I'm funny. I'm just going to become a comedian. And that's just not the case. Class clown does not make you a funny person at all. So I'm not funny, not smart. And these board games, the group chats I'm on like 1, 2, 3, 1 college, 1 high school, 1 post-college group chat, possibly another one. And I try to keep it light, try to toss out little one-liners here and there. And there's just crickets. And if they're not crickets, it's like, stop trying to be funny. Like, you are not funny, not even a little bit. And yet I still keep doing it. I just can't get it out of my system. Would love to just take a pill and wipe it out, so I can like move on with my life and know that comedy is not in my future. It would be great. Fucking board games, But yeah, not having a virtual prom, that stinks. And a virtual graduation, that stinks. But I think the one thing that this pandemic has taught all of us, it's certainly reassured my wife that she does not need to go into work. And I mean, fuck, we've been doing my job. I've been doing my work from home since March 11th. we're going on almost 2 months now. So it's like, yeah, I don't really need to go into the office. Thanks. Which is ironic because that's why we sold the house. Because our commute sucked to the city. And we were like, we either want to go closer to the city or we just want to get the hell out of the area. Because that commute is so brutal. That's how bad the commute is. Which if I had, if I had like a private car, something like that with space and elbow room, and I could lounge a little bit, and I have my computer set up there, and I could do the stuff that I, writing on my screenplay, writing jokes, whatever it is, writing blogs, whatever it is, just if I could do that and like a nice little setup as I'm going to work and I don't have to be surrounded by 50 angry people who don't want to be going on the bus or on the subway or on the train. That'd be great. And even this quarantine, like working from home, the working from home is great. It's just the childcare. I love my daughter, but like when the two of us are in work mode and we're trying to get stuff done and she's like, Anna, Olaf, Sven, Fra. It's like, oh boy. So we've already fucked her up. I've already come to terms with it. I've accepted it. She's fucked for the rest of her life. Too much screen time. What are you going to do? If you're a parent, you gotta come to terms with something like that. You're going to screw up your kids and they're going to blame you. Just like I blame my parents and my parents blame theirs. Just like, that's the circle of life. Lion King, shout out. So yeah, I'm spiraling. But it's a nice, slow, steady spiral. Almost 40. I cannot believe I'm almost 40. Ugh. Like the year 2000 has been coming up a lot in everything that I see. The 2000 Mets, talking about bringing back the black uniforms from the 2000 Mets season. We're going to be talking about the Griffey trade that didn't happen, that could have happened in 2000. 2000 was a big year. I was a junior in college. Mets went to the World Series. Giants went to the Super Bowl. American Psycho came out 20 years ago, which is mind blowing. Really wish I did not watch that movie and like it so much, because that kind of sent me down a dark path. So yeah, god damn. So that's life. I mean, maybe I am. I don't know if I'm intelligent. That's a weird thing to say when you're almost 40, that I still don't know who I am and where I'm going and what I'm doing. Like, what is my purpose? To not know that at this age is preposterous. It is like unfathomable. I think if you were asked 20-year-old me in the year 2000, hey, what are you going to be doing when you're 40? I'd be like, I'm going to be killing it. But I don't know. It's not as bad as I make it out to sound, but it's like 10% alcohol by volume beer is treating me right. River Horse, Triple Horse, Belgian style ale brewed with spices from Ewing, New Jersey. Shout out Ewing. But these group chats are just demoralizing, dude. Demoralizing. No one finds anything I say funny. And then I see someone else say something and it's like a fucking laugh riot. It's like, I don't know. I'm just not a likable person. It's tough to swallow. And then you try to get like in male group chats. I'd imagine it's different from a female group chat, but male group chats, it's like a bunch of fucking sharks just tearing into each other, like a fucking shark orgy. And, I try to get in and throw some jabs here and there, try to like keep it, everyone on their toes. And like, if I have something to say and I think it's going to be taken in a way that makes someone laugh, I'm going to take that shot. And I got to learn to just be a casual observer. I was a casual observer for a long time. And then eventually I'm like, you know what? I got this. I think I got it. And I'll chime in. And then it's like the tough guy in the group takes it the wrong way and is like, and it is literally happening in two group chats, separate group chats, where the guy's like, are you making fun of me? And it's like, yeah, we're in a fucking male only group chat. That's what we do. We make fun of each other. But it's me. That's it's all about delivery and who it's coming from. I guarantee if someone else says it in their group chat, it would be like, oh, fucking LOL, thumbs up, blah, blah. But minute Lynch chimes in, jumps in, and throws his 2 cents in with some kind of quip or crack or put down, met with just disbelief and shock and like an offensive outrage. And it's just like, what? I thought we were all, are we not in the trust tree, in the circle of like in the nest? Nope, you're not, Neal. So still can't come to grips with a lot of things. Would be nice to just like accept, okay, Neal, you're a fucking loser. Move the fuck on. Like, you are not going to be this person that is well liked, that people think is funny and intelligent and whatnot. People are going to think you're stupid, overweight, and not funny. The Lexapro. I got to get some more Lexapro. All right. So that's life. Let's talk Mets. Well, let's talk Major League Baseball first and foremost. The new plan to salvage the 2020 season has emerged. There are reports that teams will be stationed in one of three hubs: Florida, Arizona, or Texas. All three states have stadiums to play in with retractable roofs, and 10 teams. There'll be 10 teams in each division. Which, the more I've thought about this, the more I guess I don't like that plan. Only because, how do you travel? Like, this is where it gets a little dicey, and I've seen people comment on this. There was one tweet that just kept on showing up in my feed today as I was fighting through a vicious hangover. Was like, if it's not safe for the fans to go to the stadium and watch the game, then how is it safe for the players? And I kind of have to agree with that. So if you have these three states you're playing in, and these 10 teams in each division, so 10 teams in Florida, 10 teams in Arizona, 10 in Texas, they're just staying there, right, and playing each other? Or are they traveling from Texas to Arizona, Florida? Like, are they traveling in between the states? In which case, doesn't that increase the chances of getting it? So for me, I guess it makes the most sense to have them all in one state. And it looks like Arizona, because that's the one with the most stadiums. So I don't know. The more, I mean, I'm sticking to my guns, and I'm still saying that July, I think, is when we're going to start seeing things come back online. I really do. And I think that's Major League Baseball's best bet. And they're really going to push for that, to have the 4th of July week be like kickoff week. And, we'll have all these stay-at-home concerts that are so big now. That was another thing. I tried to like get Lindsay and Cassie, who are like super into fucking music more than I am, for sure, to like watch this One World Together at Home virtual concert thing with, I had like 80 million artists, and they're all performing from home, I guess. And then just pass. Nope, no interest. And I was just like, there are a lot of people in there that you guys love, and you're just not interested. And like, nope, no thanks. And I was like, okay. Turns out like 20 million people watched it. I still haven't watched it. But like, that's like just watching the draft that happened, the NFL draft. Like that's what, like, we're no longer having like the Pepsi halftime show with Beyonce, or Lady Gaga jumping off the top of the stadium, or like, the artist performing in the stadium. It's now like the artist performing from home. And like, we'll use July 4th week as like this huge kickoff, and they'll have musical guests and special guests, and we're celebrating America and freedom and America's pastime. And I really think that's going to be the approach with no fans. All in Arizona. So, I don't know. I still think, if they go much past, I agree with like Clem from Barstool Sports, Mets fan, that if they go past, if they lose more than half the games, I don't see them really going through with it. You might as well just postpone it. Because like if you play, say, September is the next realistic time frame that you would try to pull this off. Although I wonder, wouldn't you just, and I don't know the rules, and that's what makes me a dumbass, but if you could, and this might sound crazy, but if you could do like, if next season starts April, right? You give the players off February. We'll say February and January. And this Arizona plan goes through. Why not just push back the end of the season? Like, is that wrong? So like instead of finishing the regular season in September, playoffs in October, you have the playoffs in December, you finish in November. So we're now just shifting everything 2 months. So we've now lost April, right? We'll probably lose. We're probably going to lose May. And if we're we're being like, realistic about it, we're going to lose June. I would say the target start date is July. Could you not play 162 games, July, August, September, October, November, in 5 months? So you lose a month. It'll be tough. I don't know. I would say anything less than 81 games and people would just are throwing an asterisk on it. They're going to throw an asterisk on it regardless, but the more games you take away beyond 81, the cheaper and less important it feels. The Devils won the Cup in 94-95, and that was a strike shortened season, I think, where they only played 40 some odd games in the regular season. But yet, I don't know. I don't view it as like, I constantly forget that happened, but it's not like that cup doesn't mean anything. But again, there were people in the stands. So it's like less than 81 games, no people in the stands, just doesn't feel right. So they got to figure out how they're going to like jazz this thing up to make the fans get back into it. I know fans will tune in regardless. But say the Mets win the World Series this year and it's like they only played fucking like 40 regular season games, a quarter of the season. It's going to be like, yeah, we won. Next order of business. The Mets could quote unquote, fall into the laps of Alex Rodriguez and Jennifer Lopez at a huge discount. Miami billionaire Jorge Mas, which stands for George Moore, Spanish for George Moore, went to high school together with Alex, and Mas previously tried to buy the Marlins, but of course it fell to Jeter. And Mas also bought into a Miami soccer team that's partially owned by David Beckham, I think. So I wouldn't mind that. Interesting to see what A-Rod and J-Lo would do. I guess they definitely have big plans. I know that J-Lo has big plans for like making Citi Field, what was the quote? Turning Citi Field into like MSG East, or like summer MSG, outdoor MSG, I think she said, or her camp said. So yeah, whatever it takes to turn this franchise into the opposite of a laughingstock would be great. Not sure what A-Rod's plans to put his stamp on the franchise. I mean, he was a Mets fan, I believe, growing up. So it's like, he's definitely emotionally invested in it. And probably cares a hell of a lot more than the fucking Wilpons. So, I'm not like diehard A-Rod J-Lo fan, but they're growing on me and they're better than the Wilpons. So I'm all for it. And of course, Steve Cohen is now back in the mix as well. He was so close to buying, and in the final negotiations, it fell apart. And if I had done more research, I could have told you why. But how sweet that must be for Cohen now to come back to the Wilpons and get it and potentially scoop it back up and buy it for like probably way less than what he was originally going to buy it for. Because I mean, the loss of revenue in addition to the loss of revenue from admissions or whatever, merch, in stadium sales, blah blah, but also, I guess, potentially TV rights and all that comes with actually playing games. They still are paying the players. So the Wilpons are in a bad spot. So it's interesting how the coronavirus is, it's a deadly pandemic, and I'm not saying that it's not, but there are some pros to it. It has forced the Wilpons to sell, which is huge. It has shown employers, stodgy, old school employers who are stuck in the past, that your young workforce can still work from home and get the job done. You don't need to be hovering over them and visibly seeing them at all times. Big Brother, 1984, George Orwell, what up? So I think the future is bright for the Mets. So speaking of 2000 and the 2000 Mets, what if the Mets got Ken Griffey Jr. in 2000? So there was a trade offer in place, and it was going to go through, and Griffey was like, nah, I'm good. And he rejected it. Something like a 10 to 5 ratio or rule or something like that. Before Griffey was traded to the Reds in 2000 for Mike Cameron, Brett Tomko, and Antonio Perez, the Mets and Mariners had agreed to the framework of a deal for the superstar. The Mariners would get Octavio Dotel, Armando Benitez, and Roger Cedeno, and the Mets would get Ken Griffey Jr. And this writer, I think it was Yahoo Sports that put this out, but this writer for Yahoo Sports, he surmised that the Mets would, if that actually went through and Griffey didn't vote it down or whatever he did, that the Mets would, if they did get Griffey, they would never have reached the 2000 World Series. In large part due to the fact that we would not have gotten Mike Hampton. So when the Griffey trade fell through in real life in 2000, that's when the Mets went out and got Mike Hampton, who was huge in the NLCS. Complete game against the Cardinals. Or was it 8 innings? Probably might have been 8 innings, but he was, lights out against the Cardinals in the NLCS. So in this alternate scenario where Griffey accepts the trade, goes to the Mets, that means the Mets do not get Mike Hampton. And instead the D-backs, the Arizona Diamondbacks, get Mike Hampton. But as a result of that, they don't get Curt Schilling. And there's a potential that the Diamondbacks also get David Wright, because that was the pick. Oh, I somehow just broke my toe by not doing anything. Is that possible? My big toe just literally gave up on me. So I think David Wright, that draft pick that the Mets used on David Wright, would have instead have gone to the D-backs along with Mike Hampton. So the D-backs get Hampton, and potentially Wright. Who knows if they actually draft Wright? But there's the possibility that we don't get David Wright. I think that's the bigger takeaway here, is that we would not get David Wright, and Curt Schilling doesn't end up with Arizona. Instead, Schilling goes to the Cardinals, and the Cardinals win the 2000 World Series. I guess over the Yankees, maybe, and then the Yankees. So the Yankees don't win the 2000 World Series, but then the Yankees do win the 2001 World Series because the Diamondbacks don't have Schilling. They don't have Hampton because Hampton is just for 2000, if you remember, and then he goes to Colorado in 2001. And I believe they wouldn't have Luis Gonzalez either. So, interesting turn of events. And then the final takeaway was the Mariners never set the record for most wins in a season, which we all know how that turned out in 2001. Still, I don't know. I think if you asked a lot of Mets fans, who would you rather have, Mike Hampton or Ken Griffey Jr. for that 2000 season? Even knowing what Hampton contributed to that team, I think a lot of people say Griffey. I just cannot imagine a fucking lineup with Piazza, Griffey, Ventura, Alfonso. Oof. Makes me feel all good inside. And I don't know if the Mets pitching was that much worse without Hampton. But also you got to factor in that we would not have had Benitez. But I guess we have Franco still at that point. He's not at the top of his game, but he's still a closer. Octavio Dotel, I don't remember his numbers that much. Cedeno was more of a base stealer at the time, but I don't even know if he started that 2000 season. I don't know. I'd like, I've said this before, I'd like to pay like $10, $20 to see like that real life simulation, the alternate reality. That'd be sweet. Because he went on, Griffey still had I think he had one or two more really good years in him. So to say that we would not have reached the 2000 World Series, we beat the Cardinals 4-1 in the NLCS. It's not like it was a tight race. It didn't go 7 games, went 5. So maybe it goes an extra game or two, but I still think we come out on top. And then who knows how we do against the Yankees, because we didn't really have, you looked at the 2000 team. Jay Payton, Timo Perez, Benny Agbayani. Outfield was not stacked with big time offensive sluggers or producers. It was our infield that was elite. And Todd Zeile, I'm not gonna knock Todd. I've moved on to Hell or High Watermelon from 21st Amendment Brewery, a wheat beer brewed with watermelons. It's a seasonal release. 4.9 alcohol by volume, 17 IBUs, whatever the fuck that means. It's now 11:06 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. All right, so that's the Mets. Who gives a fuck? Probably not going to upload that. That's for damn sure. Let's move on to the Giants. Okay, let's talk Giants. We have, this will be a 2020 NFL Draft extravaganza focusing on the New York Football Giants. Before we actually get into each of the picks, there was a lot of talk leading up to it. I know that I definitely added some fuel to the fire of potential draft day trades, which I thought, even though, Gettleman's not really known for trading down, I thought that there was potential that even if he didn't trade down, that they could at least trade back up to snag a couple playmakers, one on offense, one on defense. There was talk about the 49ers showing interest in Evan Engram, which I did not understand at all. They have George Kittle. I know they lost to us, but I don't know. A lot of smoke. It was smoke screen season, basically, and I've hook, line, and sinker a bunch of it. Evan Engram was not traded, still in the ball club, but I know the Giants have until I want to say beginning or end of May. It's definitely in May to pick up the 5th-year option on Engram. So I think that will speak volumes. If they say, yeah, 5th-year option, then it's all right, they believe in this dude and they think they can get him on the right track. If they don't, to me, it's They might use him as a mid-season trade before the trade deadline in November if they are in contention, or even if they're not in contention, to pick up someone that at least can help them out in a position of need, because I don't know that tight end is really a position of need. I mean, I know it was listed as a position of need going into the draft, but I think they're fine at tight end, honestly. There's a lot of talk that there's still some legs on the, I don't want to say rumor, but speculation that the Giants are still in the market for Yannick Ngakoue. Butchered that. But he went on like some kind of Twitter rant, like getting into a Twitter fight, a Twitter beef with the Jags owner, Shaka Khan, or whatever the hell his name is, and the owner's son, just going back and forth on Twitter. It's like, I just don't think the Giants want to get into that. I just seeing everything that went down with Odell, seeing how things ended up with even with Shockey pre-social media. I just think they're beyond that. And I don't think that they really want that. I just don't think it falls in line with the Joe Judge mentality and the Joe Judge philosophy. He's a no-nonsense guy, no bullshit. And I just don't think he puts up with that kind of stuff. He's more of a guy that he likes players he seems like the coach that likes players that are committed, team players, maybe not the best athlete, maybe not the fastest, maybe not the strongest, but that are smart and can play and know how to play the game. Maybe not the most physically gifted, but study the film, the game tape, and can communicate and be smart about being in the right position at the right time. So I don't know that they're really head over heels for someone like Yannick Ngakoue, who's just like not doing himself any favors. And I know that's like typical fucking old white guy response. What are you gonna do? I'm an old white guy. There was also speculation that the Falcons and Giants would engage in a trade, and I remember reading this and being like, "What in the fuck? Like, how the hell did this get any legs?" So in this proposed trade, Falcons and Giants would exchange first-round picks, and they would swap receivers Calvin Ridley and Golden Tate, and Atlanta would send a sixth-round pick to New York. Why Atlanta would do that and give up on Ridley and take on Tate is beyond me, dude. I mean, and that's why it must be tough. I know I give a lot of shit to the football media and the beat reporters, but it must be tough because they must be getting smoke screen after smoke screen after fucking smoke screen, but they have to report it with a straight face. I guess they have to report it with a straight face. If I was a beat reporter, I'd be like, there's I have to do this because I guess it came to me and it would be like, it's my job, but like, get the fuck out of here with that trade. Why would Atlanta want Golden Tate? Beyond me. Of course, Jamal Adams, speculation that he was going to get moved. His time with the Jets was ending. And so there was talk like, oh, well, he can join Leonard Williams, his former teammate. And that the Giants would be up for trading for him, which, I'm not gonna lie, I'm intrigued. I would definitely pick up the phone and listen to the proposal on that one, because that solves a lot of problems. But of course, we'll get to it. The Giants did address it in the draft, but I mean, Jamal Adams, right off the bat, you're getting like Pro Bowl, potential All Pro, and then your worries in the secondary are severely diminished. And there's another like smokescreen stupid report that came out. The Giants were in talks with Justin Herbert, which, I think a couple years ago, 2018, maybe, we were salivating at the prospect of getting Justin Herbert, and we all crowned him as like the next franchise quarterback. And then he just, I don't know, I guess he did not impress in 2018 or 2019. And he ended up going to the Chargers. So interesting to see how that would play out. But, I mean, did anyone take that thing seriously about that? Like, oh, yeah, sure, we're going to move on from Daniel Jones after one season drafting him at 6. Like, what is going on in your brain? Like, we're just going to trade Jones to who? For what? I don't know. And then you realize later why they were talking to Justin Herbert. We'll get into that later on. There are reports that Marcus Golden is unlikely to return pre-draft. And then post-draft, we see he's been in serious talks with 2 teams, the Lions and the Giants. So it's very possible that they bring him back and that he's not going to get the kind of money that he's asking for. I mean, the market value on Spot Track was something like 13 some odd million dollars a year. It's like, oh boy, it's amazing what sacks do for your salary. And then after the draft, there was a lot of talk about the Giants cutting Nate Solder. How dumb are you? Like, how dumb are you? Have you looked at any of the numbers that happens if he gets cut? Something like $16 million in dead cap, and people are acting like that's not a lot of money. I mean, Jesus Christ. They're not going to cut him. I think he just got a roster bonus. He was a Walter Payton Man of the Year nominee. I mean, you got to factor in the fact that his son was going through some more chemo for, I think, lymphoma or something. Like, just take it easy. He's in year 3. I think if he doesn't make a market improve in year 3, 2021, yeah, you look to move him. You look to move on from him. But I think you got to give him this year. Got to give him a lot of leash this year. But that's it. This is kind of a prove it year for him. Sean O'Hara said that Nate Solder has his best full football left ahead of him. And David Deal agrees. So that's 2. I mean, David Deal played in 164 games, was like a 5th round draft pick. Sean O'Hara was an undrafted free agent who went to the Browns and then eventually the Giants. So you look at the lines from the 2 Super Bowl teams and not really a lot of top round day 1, even day 2 talent. I mean, Chris Snee is a whole nother ball of wax, but you can find good talent on day 2, day 3. And I think they did in this draft. And this is not related to this year's draft, but this goes back to the 2017 draft. Former Giants head coach Ben McAdoo wanted to trade up and draft QB Patrick Mahomes in 2017, but the front office said no. Can you imagine? 2017, Manning has that shit year. McAdoo, instead of playing Geno Smith when he benches Eli against the Raiders, puts in Mahomes, and Mahomes puts on a show. And all of a sudden, we're talking about Patrick Mahomes being the starter in 2018 and Eli potentially, I don't know. He always said once Giant, always Giant. He never envisioned himself in any other uniform. But like 2018 was that 2020 is a different story where it's like, yeah, he knew at that point, like, all right, this is the end of the road for me. 2018, I don't know that he was in that same headspace. So it's possible we see Eli Manning in a different uniform in 2018 and potentially 2019 before he hangs them up. Well, I know Bears fans are like, they rue the day that they went with, was it Trubisky in 2017? No. Was it? But I guess the Bears might have passed on Mahomes as well. So, I mean, can you remember when everyone wanted the Giants to draft fucking Mitchell Trubisky? Where are you at right now? Are you asleep right now? Are you dreaming about how wrong you were? God damn it. People don't know what they're talking about. No one knows what they're talking about. I mean, even the most educated people, I mean, you look at Bill Belichick, how many draft picks that he's been wrong on. It's tough. That's why I think it's impressive that Gettleman, take shots at Gettleman for his free agency moves, which have been pretty awful prior to this free agency period. I think this free agency period, he did a pretty decent job. But his drafts, I mean, I was looking at, if you look at the drafts prior to him and then in his, not even counting this draft, the 2 drafts before, I mean, there's like a lot of starters in those 2 drafts. Daniel Jones, Saquon Barkley, Will Hernandez, BJ Hill, Zoe Carter, Julian Love, Corey Ballantyne. I mean, there's I want to say there was 3 or 4 from 2018 that are on the team and significant contributors, if not starters. And then that last year's draft, I mean, holy shit. I'd say like 80 to 90% of the people he drafted are either starters or see significant amount of snaps. I mean, that's pretty impressive considering most drafts you only see like of the 7 picks. If you have 7 picks, you probably get like, if you come away with 2 or 3 starters, you're like, oh, that was a pretty good draft. We hit on, less than half, but that's, I guess, the hit rate, right? I mean, I was looking at the drafts. I just did a lot of draft research whenever I had some downtime this past week. And, I mean, the drafts of the 80s, I was specifically looking at the 84 draft because I think that's the one that really helped out the Giants make their push in the 80s. Like, of course, you had Sims in 79, which that was a whole nother. I mean, that's just in this day and age, you would never, ever, 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 ever see a quarterback get 5 years of injuries and mediocrity and still be given a chance. Now, there was a period where I think in 83 where Parcells comes on, he's the head coach, and he's like, "You're not my starter," and Phil's like, "Trade me." And they didn't, fortunately. But wow. I mean, he was, I mean, it was a different time also. I mean, you could throw for like 2,500 yards and have the same amount of touchdowns and interceptions and get voted to the all rookie team like Phil did, So it was a different time, but the 84 draft, Banks, Reasons. I want to say William Roberts. I mean, guys that played a lot of games and a lot of good games for the Giants. But then you look at the ensuing drafts, and it wasn't like there's probably, Bavaro in 85. I think they got Ingram in 87, Baker. So there were a few drafts in the 80s where it's like they didn't really come away with a lot, but there was at least 1 or 2 players each draft that were significant contributors that provided a lot of value. So, I think it's the fact that is such a good drafter, Gettleman, that he's been given this kind of last hurrah, if you will. But I'm telling you, if he goes 7-9, you're not going to quit on him. 6-10 might be a different story. I mean, if you go 4-12 again or 3-13 again, ugh. And I think that's what most of the fan base is like, 7 or 9 or 8-8, and we will be happy. I mean, it's a low bar, in my opinion, but we also have a fucking god awful schedule. I was looking that up because, I got into a IM chat with one of my buddies who's a Patriots fan. I was saying, for the Patriots, I could see them going 9-7, and because of the new playoff format where there's now 14 teams get in, so 7 from each conference. The Pats would probably get the 2nd or 3rd wild card, the 6 or the 7. And then they would have to play. They'd have to go to either Kansas City or Baltimore, because I think I had either Kansas City or Baltimore as the 2 or the 3. And I was like, where would you rather go if you're a Patriots fan, like Kansas City or Baltimore? And I actually said that you'd probably want to go to Baltimore, but I think you're screwed either way. But man, the Giants got handed a raw deal, especially with Brady going to the fucking Bucs. that actually stinks for the Giants. We obviously have the Cowboys, Eagles, and Redskins home and away. But at home, we have the Cardinals, who, I mean, Jesus Christ, they got Isaiah Simmons. So, spoiler, if you didn't watch the draft, the Giants did not get Simmons. We passed on Simmons, and he fell to the Cardinals. The Cardinals also, I mean, the Cardinals got a very good, the way that they were graded. See if I can find it here. Did I bookmark it? How did I not bookmark it? Good job, Neal. Someone put together like a chart of like all the different reviews and grades, and I think the Cardinals ended up pretty high. So I mean, the home game against the Cardinals, that could be an issue. I mean, talk about storyline. The guy that the Giants fans thought we were going to get in Simmons now coming back to haunt us. The Falcons at home, which I don't know that the Falcons had a really good draft. I think they had a pretty shitty draft. The Browns, who ended up getting Jedrick Wills, but who is more of a right tackle than a left tackle. But I think the Browns had a pretty good draft, so they're going to be better. The Steelers at home, which, the Steelers are the Steelers. I think that the Steelers, there's potential for them to miss the playoffs. I don't think they win the AFC North. I think they maybe get a wild card, but I have them potentially missing the playoffs. And then the 49ers at home, the fucking defending NFC champions. And then, so that, I mean, right there, like, oh, yeah. 49ers, and then the Buccaneers. Sorry, I was reading the wrong thing. Was I reading the wrong thing? Yes, I was reading the wrong thing. God damn it, Neal. So the home opponents, Cowboys, Eagles, Redskins, Cardinals, yes. Browns, yes. I was reading the right one. Steelers, 49ers, and then the Buccaneers. So that's why I brought up Tom Brady. So we're not playing the Falcons at home. Well, there goes the W. So you're looking at potentially losing to the Cowboys at home, losing to the Eagles at home. I don't even know what the Redskins. I guess we beat them. So that's 1-2. Cardinals will be a close one, potentially losing that. 1-3. Browns, OBJ revenge game. So who knows what he probably puts on a show. 1-4. Steelers, maybe we sneak one from the Steelers. 2-4. 49ers, I think we lose that one. 2-5. And then we got Tom Brady coming to MetLife on a Buccaneers team that now has Rob Gronkowski and got Tristan Wirfs, who, and you can see what I'm doing here. The Browns get Jedrick Wills. They probably slot him as a day one starter on the right tackle. And he probably stays at right tackle. That's kind of what everyone seems to think. He's not going to go move to left tackle. Bucks end up getting Tristan Wirfs. That was the lineman that I thought we were going to get at 4 if we didn't go Simmons. I mean, in all the mocks that I had, it was like, if Simmons is unavailable, or for whatever reason we think that Simmons is not, we absolutely have to have an offensive tackle, that we trade down from 4, and then hopefully Wirfs is still available, which I think the Bucks had the number 13 pick. So if you trade down to 13 or whatever the thing is, they probably would have stuck out Wirfs. But the thing is, the projection for Wirfs is that he's not going to be a tackle. They're going to move him to guard. So you can see what's happening now. Wills is your permanent right tackle, not a right tackle that goes left tackle. Does not have that, they call, I guess, swing potential. Swing tackle flexibility, whatever it is, versatility. And Wirfs, even though he's listed as a tackle, maybe they start him at tackle, probably will move to guard. It's all starting to fall together. Still, though, the Bucks, man, looking good. So when I was talking to my friend, who's a Patriots fan, I was like, okay, I'm going to do the Pats rundown, 9-7 wild card. They probably lose on the road in that first round to either the Chiefs or the Ravens. The Ravens had a fucking amazing draft too. Jesus. I mean, the Ravens, I almost think that the Ravens are might be the favorite to go to the Super Bowl, but I think it's really dependent on Lamar Jackson because I think teams are going to adjust to him. But the Bucs I had going 11-5. For some reason, I had them getting swept by the Saints, which I think the Saints had a pretty decent draft. And not only that, I guess they're signing Jameis Winston to a 1-year deal, which means they have inside intel on the Buccaneers. What a move by the Saints. And Sean Payton, who I think they also drafted a quarterback, right? So they have Breeze, Taysom Hill, Jameis Winston, which Taysom Hill is, he's like a / Cordell Stewart type of player, but, and then they have one more. They drafted someone. Who did they draft? I can't remember. So I had the Bucs going 11-5, and I think they would have the first wild card, so the number 5 seed probably. And then I had them beating Philly in Philly, and then going to New Orleans, I think, for like an instant classic, Brady versus Breeze. That's going to be, I mean, that's going to happen. It has to happen. But as far as the Giants go, we're looking at maybe a 2-6. I mean, who are the wins that we have? Win against the Redskins, win against the Steelers or Browns. So you're looking at 2 or 3 wins at home. And then away, Cowboys, Eagles, Skins, fucking Ravens, Bears, Bengals, Rams, Seahawks. So this is where it gets interesting because I think we can beat the Redskins on the road, even with Chase Young. So we all know that Chase Young was going the Skins. He does. And we're like, shit, we got to deal with this asshole for the next, 10 years, or at least 5 years, 4 years. And we're going to rue the day that we beat the Redskins in the Chase Young Bowl last year. But I'll tell you why we don't have to rue the day that the Redskins picked Chase Young in the draft. Get to that in a bit. So at Philly, we just stink at Philly, so we'll probably lose. At Dallas, probably lose 0-2, 1-3 with the win against the Redskins in D.C. At Ravens, that's a loss, 1-4. At Chicago, that's a winnable game. Now, I know they have Nick Foles. And he's always done pretty well against the Giants, so I don't know. I still think we can pull out the victory there because they have 11 D tight ends and not a whole lot else. So at Bengals, I mean, is Burrow really that good that he's going to come in year 1 and just dominate? I don't know. So I'd chalk that up as potentially a win. At Rams, I think LA is going to stink. So I think we can pull that off. So we're looking at what was it? 1-3, 1-4, 2-4, 3-4, 4-4, and then we lose at Seattle. So 4-5. So yeah, you're probably looking at 6 wins. Ooh, which is tough because we want 7 or 8 to feel good about ourselves. All right. So now that we got that out of the way, the longest lead-in ever. Top needs for the Giants in the 2020 NFL Draft: linebacker, O-line, safety, tight end, wide receiver. Which I don't know. There are a lot of people that think that we should have got a tight end and receiver. And honestly, I'm surprised that we didn't get a receiver. I had Chase Claypool going to us in the 3rd round. I thought that would have been a great value pick. He's got like a 6.34 grade or something like that. Big, tall guy, physical. Something that type of receiver that they've been missing since Plax and Toomer. And I think the Steelers ended up getting him. So that stunk. And it's such a deep draft for receivers that was like, all right, well, we don't have to draft a receiver in the first, second, or even third round. We can get a quality, pick, wide receiver pick in like the 5th, 6th, and 7th. And most of those guys are projected to be a 3rd or 4th round pick. So for them not to address the wide receiver position at all was pretty interesting, considering the fact that we had such a rough time and go of it last year with Coleman going out with the ACL, Tate being suspended 4 games for PEDs, Shepard's concussions. Very interesting that they did not go wide receiver. And I think that shows you what the game plan is going into 2020. We are going to run the football. And we're going to be so good at running the football that we don't have to rely on the passing game. And we don't have to have Jones drop back 40 times a game or even 30 times a game. I think the goal for him is 20 to 29 dropbacks per game, which means Saquon will probably get at least 20 carries per game, hopefully 20, maybe 25. And they're like kind of going back to, I mean, I've been watching a lot of classic 80s Giants games and even like the 90 NFC Championship game that I'm watching now. And it's run the football, and then take your shots in the passing game here or there. Pick up third downs through the air when possible, but not like once in a while go for a deep shot, but not, anything crazy down the field. And just have your defense stack up on defense is exactly what they've done. Vince Rappisardi said in a tweet, like, you look at, and they kept showing this fucking graphic during the draft. We have the worst record over the past 3 years, 27, 18, 19. We have the worst record. The one year we made the playoffs in 2016, our defense was number 2 in scoring, DVOA, whatever the hell that is. And that's what we have to get back to if we want to have a realistic shot. And that's why 07 and 11 were such kind of, I don't want to say flukes, but it's like our defense was not top of the line in 07 and 11 by any means. And, I don't even think we had a really that great a running game either, which is a testament to Eli yet again. But no, he's not a Hall of Famer. Go F yourself. So looking at round 1, Burrow to Cincinnati, Young to Washington, Okudah to Detroit. And that makes a lot of sense. And I think that's why the Giants weren't able to trade down at all. Because why would Miami or the Chargers trade with the Giants unless the Chargers had their eyes set? Like, the Chargers must have been like, you know what, we're good with either Tua or Herbert. We can roll with either one. So the only teams I think that would really want to trade up, possibly Jacksonville, maybe Cleveland or the Jets. Atlanta, maybe. I don't know. I mean, considering Miami had another pick at 18, I think the Raiders had a bad draft. Yikes. They picked like all Clemson people. So yeah, we went with Andrew Thomas, offensive tackle from Georgia. And if I'm being honest, that was not the tackle that I thought we would select if we went tackle at 4, or even if we traded down. I thought of the 4 that were being mentioned, Wills, Becton, Wirfs, Thomas. I was like, oh, Thomas is 4 out of those 4. So if we have the first pick of the litter to go with Thomas, I think a lot of people were like, wait, what? Because there wasn't the hype behind Thomas that there was with Wills, Becton, or Wirfs. I mean, Wills had the highest grade. Becton is a fucking monster. Holy shit. I remember watching when he got scooped up by the Jets, watching like his highlight reel, and he was just like literally eating people on the field. just in one gulp, like a fucking shark, and just like mauling people and pancakes everywhere. It was like a fireman's breakfast, pancake breakfast. I mean, pancakes everywhere, fucking IHOP. And then the Giants select Thomas, and they showed Thomas's tape, and you're like, meh. Like it didn't slap the same way. It didn't hit the same way that Becton did. And so, there was a little knee-jerk reaction, instant regret. Like, oh, fuck, what are we doing? Why do we go with Thomas, blah, blah. But the more I've dug into this and the more I find out about Thomas, the more I love this pick. The more I hear from experts all around. I mean, the Giants initially got an NFL a grade of a B for this, so it's good. But I think it ultimately is going to be an A. I'm telling you, I think of the 4 linemen, the top tackles that were being projected, Wills is going to be a right tackle for the rest of his life. Becton, big, monstrous dude, but will that translate into being able to handle the NFL? And then Wirfs, who probably will move to guard. Meanwhile, Thomas has played both right tackle and left tackle and has gone up against some of the best pass rushers in the SEC and all of college football. There's tape of him controlling Chase Young. Chase Young did not beat him. So he's able to contain Chase Young, which is huge because Chase Young is now going to line up with him 2 games a year for the next 4 years at least. He also handled Josh Allen, who Gettleman was high on. Kentucky pass rusher, went to the Jags. So you're talking about 2 elite pass rushers with like all pro grades as prospects. I don't know if you could hear that, but that's some serious flatulence. And it looks like, we got a pretty good one. He was awarded the best gap/man scheme blocker among all offensive linemen in the draft. He received a 91.3 run block grade, an 89 pass block grade, 5 sacks allowed in his entire 3-year college career, and only 25 pressures. And he hasn't allowed more than 2 pressures in a game since 2017. I mean, that's like as dependable as it gets. That's like the planet Earth dependable. I was thinking about this today. I think about this at least once a week. The Earth keeps spinning in space. Infinite fucking space. Cold, dark, no one can hear you scream, space. It has been spinning and rotating on the axis for, I can't even put a number on it. Trillions of years, billions of years, I don't know. Not one little hiccup. Not like, never had an off day, never called in sick. Planet Earth, folks. I mean, that was huge. I mean, we just had Earth Day like last week, like shout out Earth. And I think Andrew Thomas is the offensive lineman version of the planet Earth. He's not going to go off his axis. Day in and day out, you wake up and know, wow, Earth, keep doing its thing. I mean, if Earth just stopped working for a second, we just fly off into space and die instantly. Does that bother anyone else? I get into these like Sunday scaries, and that's the biggest Sunday scary for me. Death obviously is huge, but planet Earth just like deciding not to do its job. All right. Mike Renner, lead draft analyst at Pro Football Focus, said Andrew Thomas started as a true freshman at right tackle in the SEC and only allowed 17 pressures on 351 pass blocking snaps. The fact that he was so good already without any real college coaching is a big reason why he was PFF's number 1 offensive tackle. Tom Rock of Newsday said Lorenzo Carter, a former Georgia Bulldog, told me a few months ago that when Andrew Thomas showed up on campus at UGA as a freshman and a starter, he and the rest of the edge rushers tried to put him, he, meaning Carter, and the rest of the edge rushers at Georgia tried to put Andrew Thomas in his place in practice, and they quickly learned that Thomas was the real deal. Holyfield, which, given Carter's lack of production in the NFL is not like a huge endorsement, but still, it's good to hear. Ian Rappaport said, had the Dolphins traded up for an O tackle, the pick would have been Georgia OT Andrew Thomas. Instead, he goes number 4, and Miami has its choice of quarterbacks, Tua or Herbert. Daniel Jones had zero poker face on the Draftathon live stream when Andrew Thomas' pick was announced. Yeah, I actually watched that back, and he was all ear to ear, my man. Grin Central, Grin City. He loved the pick, and it's easy to see why. Because the highlight reel that they showed on draft day stunk. Not stunk, but it was like not impressive like Becton's. But the more video I watch, the more tweets I see, yeah, he's just like solid. And I remember reading that he's the most pro ready of the 4 tackles. And so I kind of kept repeating myself that mantra, like most pro ready, day one starter. And that helped me. But then the more I'm seeing, the more I'm reading, it's like, fucking nailed it. Art Stapleton, NJ.com said Andrew Thomas was considered the best left tackle during last college football season. He didn't blow up the combine either, but Joe Judge says he trusted the tape and got honest evaluations from all his contacts at UGA, Iowa, and Alabama. So Joe Judge does his fucking homework and his research. And you best believe that he was a major influence on this draft. And, for all the talk that Gettleman has about hog mollies, I mean, he didn't really go all hog molly-ish on us in 18 and 19. Yeah, we got Hernandez, who's been great or good. But he, and I'd have to look at the draft classes of 18 and 19 again. But he didn't really go out and get a bunch of hog mollies like he did in this draft. And I have to believe that's due in part to Joe Judge's influence. By the way, how about Matt Rule going all defense in his draft? Not one single offensive player, which I think has not been done in a long time. So, I think he gets it, and I think the Judge and Gettleman are on the same page. Thomas was a freshman All-American. Sophomore year, he was second team AP All-American, first team All-SEC. Junior year, he was first team AP All-American and first team All-Conference. He's been described as a gritty player, day one starter, comes in well-coached and technically savvy. So I think we got a good one. And, Judge has already said, like, he's got that swing tackle versatility. So they probably feel very confident plugging him in at right tackle. But I would not be shocked, not one bit, if he ends up being the starting left tackle and they move Solder to the right tackle. I mean, he said it's going to be competitive. We're going to come in and compete, and we're going to push people and see what they've got, and we're going to make the best decision. And so I think you probably end up seeing Solder move to right tackle and Thomas the left tackle. And then you have Fleming backing them up either side in case one gets injured. And then you have another draft pick coming down the line in round 3, which I'll talk about in a little bit, who will help out as well. So round 2, we have the 36th pick, and we got a little Landon Collins deja vu with our selection. Safety, Alabama, Xavier McKinney. That's not round 1. He had a prospect grade of 6.38. So Andrew Thomas's prospect grade was 6.49. So he was like a hair below, like, plug and play. I think 6.5 or something, some kind of nonsense is like the threshold for being a day one starter. And instead, he's kind of lumped in with McKinney, who had a 6.38, which means that he will be a starter within his first 2 seasons, which we can all, I mean, it's pretty much a foregone conclusion that both these guys are going to start day one, I think. McKinney is 6 foot 201. His junior year, he was third team AP All-American, first team All-Conference, split time equally. And so this is where a lot of people were saying that he's basically like Isaiah Simmons light. So not as athletically gifted as Isaiah Simmons. He's not as tall, Not as fast, but he basically did all the same things that Isaiah Simmons did. He split time equally in the slot, free safety, in the box, and a very versatile matchup safety. So he can go against the running back, he can go against the tight end, and he's going to do the job. He has a high football IQ, which is a running theme with all these picks. It seems to be a strength with each of these picks, high football IQ. And I think that's due to Joe Judge's influence. I think that's like what he looks for. He wants high football IQ. You don't have to be the fastest, strongest, blah, blah, which I fucking love. And that sounds very Belichick-ish for being real. And then this was a tweet from someone, I forgot to mention the source, but they said, you aren't penciling McKinney in at the free safety. We aren't going to play a lot of single high with this roster, unless it's Love or Peppers. But I can see cover 3. So you have Love, Peppers, and McKinney on the field, all as kind of safety-ish type players. And then you have Bradbury and Baker press, which I do like that. The old Tampa 3, I think it is. Probably wrong about that. McKinney put out a video just saying, hey, thanks, Giants fans, kind of like his introductory video talking to Giants fans. And he looked exactly like the dude from Good Burger. And so I tweeted out like, hello, welcome to Good Burger, home of the Good Burger. Can I take your order? 0 likes, 0 retweets, 0 engagement. Why do I do what I do? It's a great question. Can't stop, won't stop. So I'm very excited about that pick. I think it's great. I remember, I think it was one of the Giants websites, Big Blue United? Maybe. They were very high on McKinney before the round even started. And they were like, if we can get this guy, he's the best safety in the draft, and we'll be thrilled. And knowing that he's the best safety in the draft and we got him, you got to feel a lot better about our secondary. Just Bradbury and McKinney alone, those 2 additions make your secondary better than they were last year. So far so good. I think that 2 for 2. I think everyone can agree that even though we didn't trade down like we had hoped, we didn't get Simmons like a lot of us hoped. This is like the next best thing. It was the best possible scenario if we weren't able to get Simmons or trade down. Round 3, and this is where, I mentioned it earlier. Matt Peart, offensive tackle, UConn Huskies. He had a prospect grade of 6.14, which is equivalent to a good backup who could become a starter. 6'7", 318. His 36 and 5/8 inch arms were the longest of all offensive linemen in the combine, and that's all fucking scouts can talk about is how long are your arms. So physically, he looks like he's got the right setup. He was the first team all conference, swing tackle flexibility, potential to get stronger, which is insane at 6'7", 318, and long ass arms. And the issues of concern are mostly correctable, which is like, if that's his weakness, is that, if his weaknesses are not can be coached away, I'm very confident they will be coached away, because Judge seems like the kind of dude who can coach you up. Looking at you, Shermer, you dick. Peart had a run blocking grade that went from 70.7 in 2018 to 90.1 in 2019. So you can kind of see here, we got 2 pretty good / elite run blockers with our first 2 offensive lineman picks. And these are some quotes that I've seen on tape. Peart looks like one of the most athletic tackles in the class. Peart's arms are some of the longest the combine's ever seen. And he trained with Andrew Thomas in Florida during the offseason and considers him a brother. So it's very easy to see why they picked him, because they probably had a lot of discussions, and Gettleman said as much, and Judge, that they had a lot of conversations with Andrew Thomas. which I don't understand why that wasn't like widely reported. It's like, yet again, the media, like, what are you doing? But they probably said, hey, if we want to bring in another offensive tackle, who do you like? And he probably said Parrott. So, I mean, you can kind of see that we're like, if these players just play good, average to good in that range, we're looking pretty good for the future. I mean, I know Jones is happy, and I have to imagine that, but Barkley is just like jizzing himself, you know? The fact that he's now there's been significant investments along the offensive line that will probably set him up, will probably influence him to sign that monster contract with the Giants and stick with us for another 4 or 5 years after 2021. But you're looking at, he would be a Giant for 10 years, and I would have to imagine he would break all of Tiki's records. Round 4. So we now went 2 of the 3 first picks. And by the way, that third round pick we had, it was at number 99. So we picked at 4, 36, and then 99. Oh. What was it? 63 picks. It felt forever. And I think that's when a lot of people started, and myself included, started talking about the Leonard Williams trade. And like, fuck, this is where the Leonard Williams trade really, you start to feel the brunt of it and the weight of it. Because if we hadn't traded for him, we would have had, the fucking top third pick, and maybe we would have got a starting center or a playmaking linebacker or, another position of need, as opposed to going at 99 with an offensive tackle who many are calling a developmental project. And that probably is not a day one starter. I mean, I think with our first 3 picks, a lot of fans were like, we need day one starters. We just need it. That's how hard up we are. And to have to wait to 99 and then at 99 get, a lot of people wanted an edge rusher. And I'll get to this later, but fuck, we need an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. We need an edge rusher. What about a wide receiver? And it's like, dude, I think you can see in this draft, they're setting up for the future, Okay, so you don't have a lot of day one starters, but you have a lot of talented players who who have similar-ish traits that are not major hurdles to climb. In my mind, they looked at the weaknesses and they said, okay, we can correct those. And if we correct those, we have a bunch of starters, which is all you can ask for. So round 4. And this is where I was dead wrong. I remember, last episode or before that, I was looking at Walter Football had a mock draft and they had the Giants. They're mocking the Giants fucking of their 10 picks or whatever, they had 4 or 5 corners. And I was like, you're out of your mind. We already have so many goddamn corners. Where are we going to throw bodies at this? And I was dead wrong. Round 4, Darnay Holmes. Oh, was McKinney the one that you know what? I'm an idiot. No, never mind. Round 4, Darnay Holmes, cornerback, UCLA Bruins. Projected to go in round 3 or 4. And that's the other thing too, is every pick so far, I forget who tweeted it, maybe Dan Duggan, but every pick, was a value pick. Guys that weren't supposed to be on the board when they got them. So they got good value. And Darnay Holmes is another example. Had a prospect grade of 5.94, which means that he's most likely a backup / special teamer. Doesn't have tremendous size, 5'10", 195. As a sophomore, he was an honorable mention all conference. Has been described as tough, aggressive, and strong, which that's also another running theme that you'll see amongst a lot of these selections the Giants made is tough, aggressive. He's a slot corner that can come in year one and compete for a nickel job. Graduated college in under 3 years. Pretty impressive. Smart and savvy, shows up on the field, can mirror quick slot receivers, has some size and playing strength issues. This is a quote. I forget from who. I think it's Pro Football Focus. Holmes has the tools you love to bet on in round 2. Can't help but think a smooth athlete like him will figure it out sooner rather than later. His jaw-dropping high-end reps had interceptions other cornerbacks simply can't make, and the comparison that PFF made was to Janoris Jenkins. So, pretty interesting. And he's a chess player. So that's so you're seeing the type of player that Joe Judge wants on his team. And he has some pretty awesome quotes, which I hope I can remember. He's like, I think one of them was, I don't want 53 independent contractors. I'm trying to build a team. We're not collecting talent. We're trying to build a team. But you can see the kind of player he wants. Tough, aggressive, smart, football IQ. And then the rest is on him and his coaching staff to coach him up. I'll get to that after we get through all the picks. But round 5, and this one was interesting. And I think a lot of people were surprised they went offensive line again. Hold on one second. Let me try and see if I can open this beer while still talking to y'all, because it's not a twist off. Oh, got it. So I'm now on the Samuel Adams Porch Rocker. It's refreshing and tangy Rattler. Limited release, 4.5% alcohol by volume, 8 IBUs. That's another thing that I found while reading a lot of these like scouting reports. It's like reading fucking Mandarin Chinese or like hieroglyphics. The terminology and the lingo that they use is just out of control. Like tight hips. What? I should do a blog on like all the ridiculous like slang that I see in scouting reports that makes zero sense to the normal football fan. Anyway, Shane Lemieux, a guard for the Oregon Ducks. First Lemieux to ever get drafted. So it was a pretty huge. Prospect grade is 6.17, which is good backup who could become a starter. He did not allow a sack on 457 pass attempts last season. Oh my God. He never missed a game. 52 consecutive starts. Blue collar go-getter that the Giants may view as a long-term option at center. Has tight hips, there it is, and struggles versus speed. Needs protection, L and R, I guess left and right. Tough kid, though. So there you see it again. The keywords, the buzzwords, tough, blue collar. And I put out a tweet that said, this pick is not confusing. It's not like it's befuddling. It makes sense. Sure, we have Will Hernandez and Kevin Zeitler, but both of those dudes are unrestricted free agents after the 21 season. And Gettleman has said that Lemieux will compete for a backup guard spot early in his career. He was consistent, reliable in college, and has low-end starter upside. And Joe Judge said that he plans to work Lemieux at guard and center. So you can see what's going on here. Judge is high on players that are flexible and versatile. McKinney can play in the slot, can play deep, can play in the box, blah, blah. Thomas, swing tackle. Parrott, swing tackle. Lemieux, center guard. So it's like he likes the ability to move people around and put them in different positions and know that you're not hurting yourself or the team. So, I mean, I wouldn't be shocked if Lemieux is our starting center. come week 1. Odds are, we have Pulley right now. Jalapeno is a free agent, but they might bring him back. And then I guess they even said Nick Gates, who has now been mentioned as like a backup tackle, a backup guard, and a backup center. But I really like this pick because even if he's not our starting center, the fact that you have already like provided insurance for the future. So say like after 2021, Zeitler and Hernandez are both free agents. Odds are, I would hopefully they continue to perform at a high level, and you can sign them both. But if you lose one, boom, Lemieux, who at that point would have been a backup for 2 years, watching two of the best do their work. So sure, might not be an immediate contributor right away, but you're gonna love this pick like 2 years down the line. You're gonna be like, whew, what vision from Getty. Round 6, we went outside linebacker Cam Brown from Penn State. He was projected to be 5th round, so this is another value pick. His prospect grade was 5.97, so he's I think that's the equivalent to like a backup special teamer. But Joe Judge probably views him as a developmental traits-based prospect. He's long, as they like to say, 6'5", 233, 34-inch arms, 9.5-inch hands. And he's a leader, is a takeaway that we got. In looking at what Coach Franklin has said, he's reminiscent of a Lorenzo Carter or a Leonard Floyd, who, a lot of Giants fans wanted us to pick in 2016. Team captain type of guy. So that's another trait that I think Judge really values is, were you a team leader? Did people look up to you in the clubhouse? And Cameron Brown is one of those guys. So again, not a day one starter, but will certainly compete and potentially become a starter in year 3 or 4, which is, great that they're already looking to the future. Because, with these free agent acquisitions and signings, they only got him for like 3 years, and who knows what happens in that 3rd year. So, they're building a pretty talented roster. And Cameron Brown hates the Cowboys, so you can't ask for more than that. Round 7, we went outside linebacker again, an edge rusher, Carter Coughlin, Minnesota Gophers. He was projected to go in round 6 or 7, so another value pick. Prospect grade was 5.59. So that's equivalent to chance to make end of roster or practice squad. And I'm going to go out on a limb and say he's going to make the roster. 6'3", 236, so he's a little undersized. He was honorable mention all conference sophomore year and second team all conference junior year, along with being Minnesota's most outstanding defensive player. In 2018, his senior year, he was second team all conference. Again, high football IQ, but below the average size. And I think he's going to surprise some people. I think that's going to be one of the picks we look back and say, wow, I can't believe we got that guy in the 7th round. It will be like almost a Jesse Armstead-esque pick, which is saying a lot. That's a bold statement, Neil. Jesse Armstead was like a Pro Bowler for 7 goddamn seasons. But I don't know. Something about him I like. He had a big junior year. I think he had some like 9.5 or 10 sacks or a lot of sacks junior year. And then I guess senior year he fell off with his sack totals. But people talk about how we didn't really get the edge rusher we needed at the top day 1 of the draft, day 2 of the draft. You got to give it some time. And I'll get to it. There's a tweet down here that I have. Should I say it now? Yeah, I'll say it now. There's a tweet. I don't know who it's from, and it could probably be very wrong. But Michael Strahan had 3 tackles and a sack his rookie year. Osi Umenyiora had 26 tackles and 1 sack as rookie. Justin Tuck had 31 tackles and a sack as a rookie. Oshane Ximines had 25 tackles and 4.5 sacks as a rookie. So for all you Giants fans who are saying we don't have one pass rusher on the roster, we're screwed. You got Ximines, and now you got Coughlin, who is related to Tom Coughlin, just not former Giants head coach Tom Coughlin. His grandfather was named Tom Coughlin, who played at Minnesota. So moving on around, we had 4 goddamn picks in round 7, which I honestly, I saw 4 round 7 picks and I was like, we have got to trade up from that. There's no way we do 4 round 7 picks. There's got to be a way that we move up to higher up because, 4 round 7 picks, what are the odds that all those 4 make the squad? I guess what you're hoping for and what a good assessment I saw was, hey, people are concerned that we did not pick every position of need, i.e. like tight end, wide receiver. But we did double down and triple down in some cases on certain positions that were weak. And it's like the thinking behind that is higher probability that one of them will figure it out and be your starter, as opposed to you take a chance on one guy for that one position. If he doesn't work out, it's like, we got to look towards the next draft, which I agree with. I like that. Especially because tight end wasn't like a major area of concern last year in my mind. Wide receiver, maybe. I would have liked to get a wide receiver. That's the one negative I would take from this draft that didn't make it an A for me. It's like a B+, and I think for a lot of people, experts across the board, Giants ended up having like an average of the 16th highest graded draft of the 32 teams. So they're right there in the middle. Above average. I'd say above average. And if they got that wide out, it would have been higher up, A- in my book. But round 7, they went with TJ Brunson at the inside linebacker position from South Carolina. He was projected to be a priority free agent. So they kind of a little bit of a reach. Had a grade of 5.5, which again is a chance to make the end of the roster or practice squad. 6'1", 230. So for inside linebacker, it's I believe that's the same size as like Ogletree and Pierce, I want to say. He was a team captain and most valuable player in 2018. He's built for life inside the box, but not great in man coverage or on stretch plays. And so you can kind of see how they're filling out the roster, Judge and Gettleman. They're saying that even though they are doubling down on certain positions, the people that they're picking at those positions are complementary. So even though Brunson is inside the box, you have someone like Crowder who can play outside the box or what have you. Does that make sense? So like Cam Brown, not necessarily an edge pass rusher. Carter Coughlin, edge pass rusher. And so they're basically drafting to fill out their packages, as Judge calls it, their schemes. There are certain packages that they put on the field. Like the one that comes to mind, top of mind, is the NASCAR package under Spags. Where they had Tuck, OC, Strahan, Kiwanuka. Basically 4 defensive ends, edge rushers, no interior defensive linemen, pin back their ears and just have at it on passing downs. That's what they're kind of going for when in this draft. They want to make sure they have a player for every package. That's what she said. What was interesting is that I saw this built for life inside the box, but not great in man coverage or in stretch plays. But when Judge was talking about Brunson, he was saying that he can play on the outside. So, or he's good stretching the play. So I don't know. Our third round 7 pick, Chris Williamson, corner from Minnesota, projected to be round 7, our priority free agent. Graded 5.5, 6 foot, 205, a big nickel back who can act as the extra linebacker near the line of scrimmage. But this is the one weakness that I had to highlight, has no chance in man coverage against the slot. I've never seen that in any of the, I reviewed a lot of prospect profiles. I've never seen has no chance in one of the profiles, but that's what they had for Williamson. So you got to imagine that he would be probably a good red zone nickelback, I'd have to say. And then our final pick, Mr. Irrelevant, last pick of the draft, Tay Crowder, inside linebacker, Georgia. So you have TJ Brunson, who's a little bit on the smaller side, 6'1", 230, who's built for life inside the box. And then you have Tay Crowder, inside linebacker, at 6'3", 235. Didn't have a grade, not great, and likely needs time in the developmental league, not great. But again, I think Judge looks at that as an opportunity. You know, I will say this: Crowder used to be a running back who transitioned to backer, and he was one of 12 semifinalists for the Butkus Award, which is given to the nation's top linebacker. It's interesting that would happen and then not get a grade and needs to time in developmental league. I mean, he played at Georgia in the SEC, which is like you could say arguably, but it's the best conference that has the most drafted players. So the fact that he's a Butkus Award semifinalist, I think that speaks volumes, and I think that he could be a contributor down the line. But at the very least, a special teamer, you know. So we now have a lot of bodies in the secondary. So you have 3 quarterbacks. And I as soon as I saw how many cornerbacks we have, I was like, I don't think everyone's going to make from this draft class is going to make this team. So, but if they do, like, where are we going to release people? Where are we going to make some cuts? I think there's a potential for Wayne Gallman not making the team. You know, I think we have a lot of tight ends now, so probably looking at 2 probably not making the final roster. I mean, our offensive line looks pretty good outside of the center position. Solder, Peart, Hernandez, Zeitler, Lemieux, Fleming, Thomas, and then Gates and Pulley. I mean, those are 9 pretty decent players. I think you probably want to upgrade at the center position, but who knows what Lemieux can do, you know, given the opportunity. So, again, I think they've taken a step in the right direction. They're better than the year before. But here's the corner. I mean, it's crowded at the cornerback position. I've put Love I grouped Love with the safeties. But who knows? I mean, he's basically like a corner / safety. And that's what's so beautiful about our safeties. Peppers, McKinney, Love. All 3 of those dudes can play in the box, can play in the slot, and can play deep, in my opinion. But the corners, Bradbury and Baker, I guess, are your 2 starters. Holmes will compete for the slot corner because, I mean, we didn't really have a good slot corner last year. I mean, Haley was great against the run, good tackler, got beaten coverage all the time. Ballentine and Beal, I guess they're on the hot seat because they did not perform well. Although Beal came on late and was actually splitting time with Baker towards the end of the season. So who knows if Baker's the starter? And then you have Williamson too. So Holmes competing for the slot corner with, I guess, Haley and Ballentine. Beal competing with Baker for the start for corner 2, And then Williamson, I guess, will also be a potential nickel / linebacker. I don't know. Michael Thomas signed with the Texans. Antonio Hamilton is gone. But still a lot of bodies. And we now have 10 linebackers for what I would assume to be 8 spots. Am I reading that wrong? I mean, you have to assume that Brunson and Crowder are the odd men out, but Fackrell are outside of the backers. Fackrell, Carter, Zimenez, Brown, Coughlin. Inside backers, Martinez, Connolly, Mayo, Brunson, Crowder. So it's 10 backers. I don't know that you're really going to I would say you carry 8. So if I had to guess, Brunson and Crowder are probably out. But then again, who knows? Maybe Coughlin's the odd man out amongst the outside backers. I don't know. I got a strange feeling about Coughlin, though. I think he might make the team over Brown. Call me crazy. And then our D linemen, Williams, Hill, McIntosh, Tomlinson, Lawrence, Johnson. It's a pretty good defensive line. So, and then we had a bunch of undrafted free agents that we picked up. Running back from Maryland, 2 wideouts from Ohio State, Ben Victor and Austin Mack. Another wideout from LSU, Derek Dillon. Kyle Murphy, an interior offensive lineman from Rhode Island. 2 edge rushers, Dana Levine, and Nico Lelos. And then another cornerback. Yeah. So who knows? Maybe one of those wideouts would actually make the team. It was a deep draft at wideout, so even though probably need to do some research on them, but you'd have to imagine that. I mean, LSU and Ohio State, nothing to sneeze at. So that's it. That's our pod. That's our show. Thanks for sticking with me. It's now almost 12:20 in the a.m. on April the 27th, 2020. This is big, fat, dumb, unfunny Neal Lynch signing off. So, yeah. I hope you liked it. Probably not. Adios, muchachos.